Radio. Believe it.
All right. So we're welcoming Dale Dupree, who is from the Sales Rebellion team. He's actually the leader of Sales Rebellion. I saw him on LinkedIn. I think that's where I saw you, right? And we're welcoming him, to Motivation Critics, where it's the views, personalities, life experiences, that sort of stuff. So Dale, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you very much.
Oh, great. So tell us a bit about yourself first before we go into Sales Rebellion, which I'm interested about hearing about.
Sure. Yeah, my story starts back in 1985 when I was born. But technically, it starts a year prior to that when my father quit his job working for the corporate box store and he started his own company. I was born into an entrepreneurial home. And one that sold copy machines for a living. That's what my dad did. So people say that toner runs in my blood, which is kind of weird and gross all at the same time. But so I spent a lot of time growing up in my dad's business, being cultured and nurtured to understand what it looked like to provide for a family from my father's perspective, but also not just a family, but a community, for employees, for friends alike. You know, my dad, like we used to joke that my dad would hire anybody. It didn't matter like what you did, he would hire you. And for real though, like my dad did that. He was a man of the people. He worked with a company here locally called the Bridge Group, who actually, that group rehabilitated men and women from prison. And I'm talking hardcore stuff, not just like misdemeanors, but felons and, you know, fair capital punishment type folks. And my dad would actually employ them, sometimes part-time, sometimes only for 3 months, but it was their way of rehabilitating them back into life as it looked into society, instead of, you know, essentially just releasing them at the end of their sentencing and saying good luck, right? So my dad was a man of the people, and he was a giver, and that was how I was raised. And it's an important part of my story because it is Dale Dupree, 100%. The legacy of my father is the shadow that I walk in. So about the time I was 17, with my entrepreneurial spirit that my father had cultured and nurtured into me, I hit the road with my band right after I graduated high school. And about 45 days later, after touring the United States, I got signed to a record label, which turned into a major record label, CDs in stores, you know, the whole back when stores were a thing. Right, when you could like go to a store and buy a CD, which is crazy to think now because it's not been that long, but it's crazy to think that we don't have that anymore. Or we sort of do, but we don't need it because you can just click a button on your phone and have everything. It's
technology. So where was he based at that time in terms of the whole copier sales and helping inmates that are released? What state was he in at that point in time?
In Florida. So I'm born and raised right here in Orlando. Actually, I'm sitting in my childhood home talking to you. I lost my father in 2016 to cancer, and when he passed away, I decided that, and they had his house up for sale. I decided that selling the house would not do good by my family. It wouldn't help with our healing process, and it would not bless the future generations of this family either. We have 10 kids between me and my siblings. There are 10 grandkids from my mom, so my mom's still alive. And my dad always wanted a massive family, so we're honoring that request in his absence. But yeah, so I'm born and raised in the neighborhood that I'm living in right now. And my father took the drive from this house to a little place called Titusville, Florida, which is known as the Space Coast. So right on the cusp of Titusville is a little road called 405. It's Highway 405, which goes directly to the Kennedy Space Center, where they launch all the rockets, and where NASA launched the man's
rockets. Okay.
Yeah. So my father was in the heart of the Space Coast selling copy machines to NASA. You know, NASA was one of his biggest clients. So, but he drove 44 miles to his office every day and 44 miles home for 29 years.
That is consistency at a very high level. Consistency at a very, very high level. I noticed that you were talking about a band as well, so I wanted to touch on that before I forget.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
No,
so
go ahead. What you were saying.
I played in a heavy metal band. People typically see me and think, what kind of music did this guy play? They're
Yeah,
kind of
my
confused.
my thought exactly. My thought exactly. It
Yeah,
would be a
so
surprise. Hmm.
yeah, I was the lead singer in a heavy metal band. I was classically trained as a vocalist, and I used that training and those skills to go and pursue my passion, which was music. I actually played some of the instruments as well too.
Oh,
In the beginning stages, I wrote some of the songs with one of my founding members. Had a lot of fun. It was my dream come true. We eventually ended up on Warner Brothers Records,
wow.
but things such as life and the instances that are put before us to challenge us,
Hmm.
that left or right turn, those crossroad concepts,
Hmm.
throughout my early years were put in front of me almost daily in some cases when it came to choosing to ruin my life or not. But in the moment,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily feel that way, right? When somebody hands you something to smoke or crushes something up on a desk for you to snort, it doesn't feel that way until you're in the
Hmm.
moment, or until
Yep.
you're outside of the moment. Then is when you get more clarity. But the Lord took good care of me in that process and helped me to stay sober throughout it, and to keep my mindset and my outlook on something much bigger than just myself and the instant gratification that was put in front of me. So that was kind of the catalyst of really wanting to get into sales and become more career orientated instead of just kind of winging it at that point. Because the band, even though it was doing well and it was just getting better and better every year, it didn't
Hmm.
have the end goal was just to be famous. And to me, that was the
Yeah.
stupidest thing we could have ever put together as an end goal, right? For me, I was sitting back going, well, what's our strategy for getting more people to buy CDs, or to come to more shows, or to get better shows, or to tour with different bands that are more popular than us so that we can piggyback on their success a little bit, the
Hmm.
things that are important for strategies inside of music. And I'll be dead honest with you that I believe it's why only 1% of bands ever really make it in the first place. It's
Yeah.
because
It's very
everyone
hard.
is so focused on just becoming famous and not
Mhm.
focused on the strategy. So I took all the concepts of strategy back with me into my work. And I actually went to work for my father for the first 4 years of coming back to the workspace. And
Mhm.
then he sold his company and I was bought up with the acquisition. The firm that I went to, I became the number one sales rep overnight. I eventually became their VP of sales. I was a $1
Wow.
million producer, net new business year over year. And then I made an upward lateral move to the corporate world for Xerox at a little company called Zeno. It was about a $60 million firm in Orlando. And then, Xerox is a $2 billion entity. So
Yeah.
it was big change and it was big time. But I realized in the midst of doing that and selling copy machines that I had something that other people did not, when it came to my outlook, when it came to my ethics, when it came to my integrity, and when it came to my overall goals and the standard in which I wanted to reach those goals. And
Mhm.
so I quit and I started the Sales Rebellion back in March of 2019. So coming up on a year anniversary.
Wow. That is something else. Do you know that a lot of persons fear quitting? The word quit sounds so like heavy when you
Yeah,
say, and a lot of what I go through in the background when I am teaching, because I coach entrepreneurs where I live in the Caribbean in Barbados, and it's funny to see that like a lot of persons will not do what you've done over the years or over time because of fear. And unless they let go of that fear and see what is the possibility of surviving out there as an entrepreneur, it's going to be hard. Either
agreed.
way it's going to be hard, but it's going through the process. Now, honestly, if I had not spoken to you within this interview, I would not have known the background, which actually is motivating to me. Hence, motivation critics, but it's actually motivating to me. And what I realize is that God does look after us. When we think that we are overlooked and really just doing something humdrum, God's letting us know that we're. When you say you step back and you look in terms of like strategies and stuff, when you start doing that, you realize, well, I am different. There's something about me that's different. Sometimes you don't see it at first, so you
Right.
continue in a process where, all right, so it can be consistent in something, anything. But
Right.
then when you find it, it's just like this is it. This is it right here. So you, what I really wanted to ask you from the personal side before we go over to sales rebellion, you mentioned in terms of quitting. When the day that you quit, how did you feel? What was the next thought? I mean, if you can remember that far back, but
Yeah, one of my mentors, shout out to Steve Noodleberg. He's a man that was one of the catalysts from my perspective on pushing me to make the decision in the first place. He had seen the potential, and what it was that I wanted to do. We spent some time when he was in town in Orlando one night together, and we just fellowshipped. He then spent the next morning with me for like an hour and a half just talking to me about strategies and what it would be that if he was in my shoes, what he would do, and imparted wisdom to me. And it's funny because what he told me was, he said, and then actually it was like the third time that I had met with him, he had told me, don't quit your job, go start your new business, is how he helped me to look at it. And so honestly, it was real simple for me to quit, because I didn't quit. I started a new business and a new journey and a new venture. And for me, those are the kind of things that people think that I'm a little bit fluffy in the sales world. They say that I'm soft and that I'm a little too spiritual about stuff, or I have too much of a focus on mindset, not enough focus on hard work. And I don't really care what they have to say, to be honest with you. And I don't think most people take what other people from the outside looking in say about them too seriously to begin with. But what I think sucks for them is that they never got to get to understand me. They don't know the trophies on my wall. They don't know what it took, to become the number one rep at the company that I was at. They don't know my sleepless nights. They don't know my struggles with depression. They don't know my 80-hour, 100-hour work weeks. They don't know the sacrifices that I made. And so when you ask that question, it was super easy. My answer is that it was super easy for me, and I felt so fulfilled and relieved in the moment of leaving my company and starting my new venture, because it was something that I had been building up to for about 12 and a half, 13 years. And so it was like time more than anything. And I had procrastinated because I was extremely happy where I was at, right? I was making a ton of money, and I didn't even have to do anything, right? Now, the company was struggling, but I was good at what I did. So it wasn't hard for me to go and get it done. I still to this day get people texting me. Matter of fact, it just happened last night, texting me and asking me, hey, who should I buy a copier from? You're not still in the business, are you? Right? Like, people literally, they long for me to still be able to serve them, which is extremely fulfilling for me. It's humbling as well too, but it's a reality. We have to realize our realities, like what it is that we've earned and achieved, and to be able to sit back and have a healthy arrogance about it. I think that we stray away from the word arrogance too much, because it makes us think of things like narcissism or pride, or in a bad light. But it is the understanding and knowing of ourselves that creates success in the first place. So I know thyself. And so it was easy for me to leave and start my own business.
Okay, well, that is great, and that in itself, that nugget in itself, would help others who are afraid to step out. As I mentioned, quit is a heavy word anywhere. So the way you've softened that up is just like, yeah, let's go. Everybody be like, yeah, let's go. But you still have to have a plan. You still have to have a strategy, idea, business idea, a vision. And what I think that a lot of persons are doing, they're envisioning, especially in the Caribbean, they're envisioning the first year. All right, first year, this is going to make a lot of money. We're going to buy a big truck. Happens all the time. Then after a year, they disappear.
Yeah,
that's it. And I think that the first year, then you should be looking to build out rather than focus on how much money you're making. Hence, you're there to make money. So as we discussed that part, we're going over to the sales rebellion side. When I saw the name sales rebellion, I was like, what? I was wondering if it was that within me, I was kind of like rebellious in a sense, but not like a rebel, like a bad thing, but like the drive that I have going after stuff when it comes to sales or contacts or business or interest or anything. And understanding that who you are in the space of other people, how they see you, actually allows you to redefine your strategy and see like what is it that people like about you that you can actually just capitalize on and bring in more business. And I constantly reevaluate myself. So what I'm going to do is to ask you more about Sales Rebellion. You have yourself as leader of Sales Rebellion. I didn't want to get it wrong. But tell me a bit more about it so that I can understand.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I like to tell people first and foremost that we are a rebellion built on hope. Most rebellions are built out of a scarcity mindset or an unhappiness that kind of comes from a place of anger or even fear in some cases. But that's not what we are founded upon. We're founded upon the idea that things can be better in sales, that and not that they're not happening now, but that there are little glimpses all across the world of it. And that if we step out and shine our light up into the sky for everybody in these little places all over the world to see, that they will gather. And over time, that gathering will become a movement, and that movement will turn into something that can never be stopped. Now, I don't necessarily believe that my company is going to be the catalyst of change inside of the sales world, but that's what we're focused on. When not just in my lifetime, we're focused on it as a legacy moving forward.
Yes.
So this first year has been something very interesting for us because it's been about building the foundation of that, you know, and so having the right people at the core of the company. We've been vetting coaches. We're about to hire a handful of them to bring on board that we believe are the right pick at the right time in the right place to start the momentum further than what it is that I've carried so far. You know, for me, the rebellion isn't about Dale Dupree. It's why when I quit my company, I didn't start a company called Dale Dupree Sales Training, right? It's why I created the Sales Rebellion, because I want it to be yours. I want it to be the listeners. I want it to be the people that follow me on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, because I'm on all social media platforms as well, just in case you're wondering.
Wow. He says that with a smile.
Yeah, it's intense sometimes. Like I just got on TikTok and I've got, I don't know, probably like 20 videos on TikTok so far, something along those lines, right?
I recently learned of that of
Yeah,
the website.
they're all their own animal and their own beast, right? But the thing is that they're a medium for you to get a message to people that otherwise wouldn't have heard your voice. So people condemn social media all the time and say it's a waste of space, it's a waste of the time that you're being consumed by it with could be used in a better way, like with your family out in the field, you know, face to face with people. Well, guess what? Like it's the catalyst of those things. And you can't sit around and see your family all the time. What it's done for us from the perspective of cultures, what it's created is a window into people's lives. Now, there are definitely people that are way too addicted to it, they're overzealous about social media. So I do agree with that mindset and that notion. But the big picture of it is that if we can have a window into other people's lives that speaks to us, that motivates us, and again, kind of goes back to the whole like fluff concept of like when people look at me and they're like, dude, you're not hardline enough, you know, you're against all the things that work in sales, which by the way they don't. That's why I'm against them in the first place. But the fluff side of it for me is the mindset, it's the attitude, it's the heart of the matter, it's the person. Right? We sit around all day long. And like you just said, you know, an entrepreneur spends their first year thinking, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to buy the nice truck. And then 12 months later, they disappear. They're back working for Amazon or whoever it was that they were with before, right? Just to make a paycheck, to continue a lifestyle that they don't like in the first place. Right. But it's because they instead of tapping into the mindset and the heart of the matter and the things that they truly want to accomplish when it comes to culture, community, when it comes to their product itself, instead they tap into this me mindset, this I want, I need, I should have mindset, right?
Yes.
And that's the problem with entrepreneurship. It's the problem with sales. And it's why the Sales Rebellion exists, because we want to build a community. We want to build something from the ground up that naturally comes together instead of it being rigid or piecemealed or even scripted for that matter as well too. So people coming into the rebellion have the same mindset, but they are authentic individuals. They don't have to be mirrors of Dale Dupree, right? I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that would agree with this concept, but I don't think there's a lot that are doing it. So we're taking a risk big time.
Exactly.
But we'll see what happens, right? I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely about this, about what you've just said, because a lot of us are hiding behind others that we think are making it successfully, because they make it seem so easy on social media. Oh, this is what I'm doing, making lots of money. But when you really check, is that they're struggling too. I think that we should do it the right way the first time, and allow persons to know that it takes time to build out. It takes time to build up. Behind the scenes, there will be failure, there will be frustration, there will be this one client that's very, very particular, but they will work with you at some point in time in terms of like payment, whichever. There are a lot of scenarios when it comes to entrepreneurship, clients, business owners, that they don't tell you. I find that persons right now don't like to tell their stories. For
Right.
what reason? I don't know. Some of the stories to them may be embarrassing. Some just may not think that their story is big enough to help anybody. And that is where you let them know, any piece of information can be motivation, as long as it moves you from point A to point B in some sort of miraculous way. Because when you look at where you were in a year ago, 2 years ago, you were like, oh, didn't know that all these changes occurred. So when I look back, in terms of my end in a year ago, I was not at this place where I was wholeheartedly pushing sales myself. I ran from sales, like, as soon as I heard it. And something was just something just was nagging me, telling me, well, you're good at it, you're good at it. And believe it or not, it runs in my family that they're good at selling stuff. Selling stuff, they can sell you anything just by talking to you. You don't even have to see it. And I said, well, you know what, sitting down and acknowledging what you're good at is a good thing. So in terms of Sales Rebellion, you say you're building up your team and stuff. You guys have like a website? Because I've only been following you on LinkedIn, because I'm mostly on LinkedIn. I tell people all the time, LinkedIn is my Facebook. I tell them.
Yeah. Hey,
I
well, listen, like
because
LinkedIn is a super powerful tool, right? People should be taking your advice seriously.
Yeah, LinkedIn is my Facebook. I word it like that for a reason. And I hear a lot. So the social media, as though we're pushing things on social media, don't work. I said no. Is what you do and the time that you spend on there, what you acknowledge. Because I go through a whole analysis in terms of when people are on their peak times, that sort of stuff. You have to acknowledge all of that if it is that you want to make it in business, and it is a very, very grueling process. So in terms of Sales Rebellion, you mentioned, I know you had answered about a website and stuff. You said you're on majority of the platforms that are out there. How can others know more about you in terms of Sales Rebellion and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff?
Yeah, anybody and everybody can go to salesrebellion.com,
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually find my cell phone on the website if you just poke around enough. I take calls on my cell phone. I take texts.
Okay.
You don't always get me, right? I'm an extremely busy person. I probably get about anywhere between 100 and 200 messages, direct
Wow.
messages a day on LinkedIn alone, not to mention any of the other social platforms or email or phone calls for that
Wow.
matter. I'm a sales coach, right? So Monday through Friday, that's
Okay.
what I do. I'm with other people constantly, all the time. I'm helping them with their sales walk. I'm teaching them the system of the rebellion that we've put together, to accommodate their existence and their authenticity. So people can head over to consume my content though anywhere. They can go to Twitter at Sales Rebellion. They can go to Instagram at Sales Rebellion. They can go to Facebook. And I think Facebook, you can search for Sales Rebellion, but really it's just facebook.com/Sales Rebellion. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's easier just to do it that way. And all things, you can do the same thing with YouTube too. youtube.com/Sales Rebellion. LinkedIn's
Okay.
different because I started with a personal brand called the Copier Warrior. That's what created my and
Oh, okay.
weird niche, like online craze, around Dale Dupree. Dale
Ah.
Dupree, nobody without the Copier Warrior. I just want to be super honest about that, right? When people started to see my brand, they thought, oh, I'm interested in understanding a little bit more about this because I've never seen anything like it. The
Mm-hmm.
copiers are boring, stale, bland, generic boxes that
Yeah.
suck and nobody likes them, right? But
Yep.
I created something fun out of my brand and something that was intriguing and engaging and caused a massive amount of curiosity, which is the number one ingredient inside of outreach and inside of marketing and inside of your brand, right? So by going and finding the Copier Warrior, it's as
Mm-hmm.
simple as typing Dale Dupree or Copier Warrior on Google, and I'm like the first 400 results that come up. all my guest
Mhm.
podcasts. I have a podcast called Selling Local as well too. You can find all kinds of stuff on me. It's really up to other people. I say this every time when people ask me to share some sites that people can go to. I share them, but then I also say it's up to you. Like, how involved do you want to be? Do you want me
Mhm.
to help you to change what it is that the trajectory you're on looks like? Do you want that type of accountability? Do you want to be driven and motivated? Do you want to hear hard truths? Because we tell them at the Sales Rebellion. We're not shy about the things that we share, about the things that we're passionate about, and about the wrongdoing in this world that needs to be overturned. Even things that I've done in the past that I'm ashamed of, I share about, because it's important to show vulnerability, because consuming vulnerability will cause it for you, it'll cause growth, right? It's a huge piece of the puzzle. My father was that example to me, and I try to be that example to others. So
Okay, that's great. And although you mentioned that he's passed on in the year 2016, I can still see how he would have taught you to be through you. So you've accomplished that goal, and I think that he would have accomplished his what his goal was when it comes to you. I'm not sure in terms of the others, but I know that I feel like if he would have accomplished his goal, by way of what he would have taught you, and the heart that he had to help others and to allow others into his space wholeheartedly, that is something that you don't see a lot anymore. And a lot of people are afraid of other people because of where they're from, what they've been through. As you mentioned, in terms of inmates and that sort of stuff, a lot of people are afraid, and that's why I go at it so strong, in terms of others. And on my end is more like youth leadership, because I do believe that starting, grasping a hold on them from when they're young really saves you the headache as they get older. It does not mean that they will not give you trouble. It does not mean that they will not try to get past you with certain stuff. Um, and that's why, well, all the time with adults, that they're saying, well, you should have a hold on your child where it doesn't give trouble at all. That is not even true. That is not even true. So I'm glad that you would have shared your story, and I know is very, very valuable. So when I share it with the same heart that you shared it, and I see that you're passionate about it. And although I have not been on the whole TikTok and all the other sites, I follow you closely on LinkedIn. When you post stuff, I sit down and I read, and it's like, okay, all right. And I feel more empowered being on LinkedIn than Facebook, but I'm on Facebook to, like, promote other businesses and stuff. So we got 2 more minutes to the show on motivation critics. Very, very thank you for joining me. Actually giving me your half hour. But is there anything else that you would share with a person that's thinking to start an aspiring business, or someone that's wanting to start something similar part time or so on, as it relates to Sales Rebellion or joining Sales Rebellion, anything at all to others?
yeah, the wisdom that I would impart to people would be this, which is a quote, but it was actually a painting that hung on my father's wall when he opened his company. It's actually sitting right here. It's by Robert Ringer. And actually, there's a lot of debate about who is the originator of this quote. I love the internet. The internet's an amazing place. There's like 20 people claiming to be the originator of this quote, but this one in particular says, "Bleach the bones of countless millions who on the verge of victory sat down to rest, and while resting, they died." And what I would say to everybody out there that's thinking about doing something is to stop. Take a minute and understand that what it is that is coming up in those thoughts and from your heart to your head is extremely important for you to do, and not just to think about, right? There's a reason why you're being drawn toward wanting to do something, right? And the thing that everybody misses is that when they start to put it on paper and they start to create their plan of action, they say, this looks too hard. Hell yes, it's hard. Nothing in this life
Yes.
worth doing and achieving is easy. And so I would tell everybody
Mm-hmm.
out there that you're not alone. Just like I would tell all the salespeople listening, you're not alone, although it feels like it, right? Every day when you wake up, it feels like it. You have a number that's crushing you. You have bills that are crushing you. You have a
Yeah.
KPI and a quota that's crushing you. It can feel weighted, but don't worry about those things, because there is something much bigger than what this world is that's watching over you. And by aligning yourself with a community like myself or like you, that people that are listening can have more hope in their walk, and not the kind of hope that is a bunch of wishful thinking, the real kind of hope, the hope that is action, the hope that takes a dream and turns it into a reality. So do not hesitate. Do not sit and think any longer. It's time to get up and move.
Well, thank you for that. And we're so into what he's saying, and not that it is because I'm more into the conversation because I've been following him, but it's because of what you're saying that makes sense. And that's just plain how it is. So thank you very much for joining me today on Motivation Critics. We will have him another time on the show. Is going to air every Friday at 8 p.m. on caravoiceradio.com. You can sign on to that website as well. And it will start on January 10th. So you'll hear yourself on Cara Voice Radio on January 10th. And I'll give you more details in the background in regards to the whole compilation and stuff. All right. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking with you, and we will talk more.
Grateful to you.
You're welcome. All right.
Voice Radio. Believe it.